Hello to all my booty seekers and cheek chasers. This is the Carpe Natem Podcast. I am your host, Nate Della Hoya-Reynoso, and I am so grateful you are listening to this episode. If you're new here, you should know that I believe that my purpose is to uplift, inspire, and educate others to communicate masterfully so that they can better understand themselves and the world around them. I've spent years in the personal development and transformational technology space, and I want to share with you the wisdom that was passed down to me from giants in the industry. So if you're on a journey of self-mastery, just like me, looking to make dreams a reality and willing to be a leader for your family and community, then join me in seizing the butt cheeks of life and giving them a big ol' squeeze. Let's jump into the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Carpe Natem Podcast. I have Lukas McCrary here in the studio with me. This is the fifth take I had to do to pronounce this man's name correctly, and I feel ashamed because not only is he one of the funniest comics in Austin right now, he's a showrunner, he is a graphic designer, he is a sex icon, and he's doing amazing things in the world of comedy right now. You're putting on awesome shows almost weekly. You're putting on shows with lineups with veteran comedians, with up-and-coming comedians. You are putting on shows that I love supporting, and I think you're doing awesome things. With that said, Lukas, welcome to the show.
Nate, you're so nice. You're so nice. Thank you so much.
I just want to hype up my guests. I want them to know that
you hype me up
it.
well. I'm blushing right now. God, I wish I could have you just every morning wake me up and just tell me all these things.
I thought about that as a profession of being like a hype man.
Yeah.
I love the character in rap songs, the guy in the back that's like, yes,
yep,
let's go. Like, that's me.
Just a personal hype man. We hire you hourly.
Yeah.
Just like go to the grocery store with you.
Because I'm short as fuck, but my energy's at least like 6'5". It's up there.
Yeah. Yeah, my energy brings me down to like 5'6", I think.
And that's why we see each other eye to eye. It's
exactly.
Because it's like, I get taller, you get shorter, and we meet right in the middle.
Exactly.
I love it. Tell us about a little bit about you, what you're currently involved in. I know you moved from Austin from Tennessee, correct?
I am from Tennessee, yeah. So I've been here about a year and 2 months, and it's gone great so far. Austin's treated me very well. I love it. Very good shows are here. I'm running some shows, and then also everyone else has stepped up their game and is running incredible shows. It's a great place to be a comedian.
What made you start doing comedy?
So I did theater growing up. Mm-hmm. My dad forced me to be in a play where I played a duck. It was The Ugly Duckling. I wasn't the Ugly Duckling because I wasn't a star. I played one of the snarky brothers of the duck, and it was a musical, so I also sang.
Okay.
So this was whenever I was in elementary school, and I dressed up as a duck and sang some songs, and for some reason that hooked me into getting into acting and performance.
So it really set a fire in you that your dad forced you to take part in this play.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, you've been just wanting to be on a stage.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it was like my own thing because all my siblings, they were all athletic, mm-hmm. and they were built for athleticism, and I am not. I was very short as a kid. I didn't hit my growth spurt till I was in 10th grade. So I was about like 5'6" until then. So I couldn't play basketball. I was horrible at soccer. I tried football one year. Just embarrassed myself.
At your shortest, you were still taller than me.
Yeah, I actually came out of the womb 5'6".
Yeah, and just stayed that height.
Just stayed, yeah.
My mom said in 5th grade she hit 5'2", and she was like the tallest kid in her class, but then she never grew after that.
Yeah.
So that's her last growth spurt, and I feel like I hit my last growth spurt maybe like mid-college.
Yeah.
Where they were like, oh, you're 5'2", well, now you're 5'4"3/4. Yeah. That's as much as you're going to get.
Well, you wear it well. I wouldn't guess that you were anything under 5.
It's also the hair. Yeah, like
the fact, hair is tall.
Yeah, it adds an extra inch or two. Plus with the shoes that I wear and the personality. I tell people that I'm 7 feet tall, and then they believe it because I talk like I'm Barry Manilow.
Yeah, and this is an audio-only podcast, so you could tell them anything.
Exactly.
You are 7 feet tall.
Yeah, they've
you
only
have
seen...
a average size penis.
I have an above average size
Above
penis,
average size.
which I think is God's way of telling us that he has a sense of humor, because he made me so short.
Right.
But he gave me the schlong of somebody maybe around 6'2", where if this package was on a 6'2" person, they'd be like, it's okay.
It's fine.
But
yeah.
as a 5'5" manlet, dude, this shit rocks.
I mean, it's all relative. It's all
100%.
like if you got really fat, you could get like so fat to where your dick would look average.
Right.
Or small.
So, and on my frame, putting on weight is exacerbated. Like if I put on 50 pounds right now, I would look swollen.
Right.
But if you put on 50 pounds, I think it would actually probably do good for your health a little bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would look, I look sickly. I look like, like I don't have money. But I'm rich.
You're rolling in it.
I'm so rich. I can afford Chick-fil-A for every meal.
The other day, I got called a fat Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it a little bit.
I can see it.
And
yeah.
I'm in this.
That's nice though. He's a handsome guy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm in this conundrum where, like, if I get any fatter, I'll look like Carlos Mencia, but if I get any skinnier, I just look like Oscar from The Office.
Yep.
So there's no winning.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, both of them are successful
in their own
way. Mencia he's technically successful as a comedian
and as a joke stealer.
Yeah, he doesn't have the best reputation, but I mean, he's laughing all the way to the bank. So what really matters?
And that's really interesting, because what do you think as a comic matters most to you? Because there are people
Money.
that go, oh, okay, they're going straight there. That's honest. It really is. There is a need that you want to make enough income that you're able to live off of the thing that you love doing, right? There's that aspect of it. But then there's also those people that like kind of trade their soul or trade their integrity for the ability to kind of get a little bit further ahead, not by like much. So I'm saying like the difference between making like $100,000 a year and making like $150,000 a year was that you had to step on somebody to get there.
Right.
Would you take that step?
What would that look like though, in terms of in comedy, having to step on, like,
steal people's jokes, just
stealing
be a dick?
No.
So I've seen comics do this, and I've heard stories of it where somebody like basically knew the set that was about to go on after them, so they did a bunch of jokes from that, so that way they knew that the next dude had a worse set off, so that way they look like a better set.
That's funny. If you're doing that to a friend, that's hilarious.
If you do it to a friend, and then of course it gets done to people who are not your friends.
Right. I've never had that happen to me where someone intentionally stole some jokes. I mean, I've seen it where some people have the same idea at the same time, and then they write very similar bits. But
right.
I mean,
but
that
verbatim,
kind of thing happens.
We're talking like verbatim, and when it's blatantly like, hey man, I think you're running material. And I actually respect comedians who I'm friends with, because I have a friend, his name's Gabe Kerr. He was also a guest on this podcast, and he was writing a joke, and he had heard me say something very similar. Mm-hmm. So he actually called me and was like, hey man, can you tell me your joke again to make sure that I didn't steal any parts from it, because I thought of this really funny thing. And I told him my joke, and then he told me mine, and I'm like, I see where you think they would match up, but they're two different jokes, but they are based around the same idea. So I get it, and I respect the fact that he actually called me and was like, sure. Hey, just to make sure I'm not stepping on any toes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've had that happen where I was in the shower and I came up with this joke, and I was like, oh, that's brilliant. That is the best joke anyone's ever come up with. And then I like sat with it for the day, and I was like, oh no, I've heard this before.
Oh no,
I've heard this from someone. It was one of Fuzzy's jokes where he's talking about Israel versus Palestine. He doesn't care who wins. He just wants to see a good game. And I had convinced myself for the day that I came up with that myself, even though I had seen him do it last week. So then I called him and I was like, hey, tell me that joke. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, because I came up with something that I thought was original, but it's just your joke. And he's like, oh, no, you can do it, man. I was like, no, I'm not going to.
Fozzie's another one of those really nice guys who's just all like, yeah, go ahead. Like, it's all in the spirit of camaraderie. And I feel like that's how things should be, especially when it comes to like art, performance art, comedy. I just noticed a lot of times because I have a background as a musician, I would go to these shows and we would play, and it didn't matter if there was like 2 people in the crowd or if there was like 100 or 1,000 people in the crowd. It didn't matter. We still brought that same energy. But I noticed that when it comes to local comics, local performers, local bands, they're too cool to clap at somebody else who's killing it, or they won't laugh at jokes. And in a weird, twisted way, they almost think in their head, if I laugh or if I clap for them, there will be less laughs and less claps for me.
Right.
Which is not true.
Right.
It's either you're funny or you're not. And even if you are funny, there are nights where you're just not.
Right.
It just happens.
Yeah.
I had a show where I fucking killed it. I felt amazing. The feeling you get home when you get home after like a really great show is better than any drug I've ever tried. Right. And then the very next day, or not the next day, but like 2 days later, I bombed.
Oh, yeah.
I was riding such a wave, and then I bombed.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of like another reason why I love comedy so much, is because it keeps you on your toes.
It humbles you.
And there are just enough moments of like, hey, really good set to keep you interested in pursuing and continuing.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it humbles you immediately. Doing well in a room is like the same feeling as if like 10 girls asked you out in the same day.
Exactly, and you didn't have to DM any of them.
Right. Yeah. And then bombing is like asking 10 girls out and then them all calling you like a creep or something.
All 10 consecutively.
Yeah.
That's, you know what?
They're like, stop looking at me.
Yeah,
It's like,
that encapsulates it perfectly, because it's like some of the highest highs and some of the lowest lows back to back.
Yeah.
But I really think it's really the story you attach to the event that really determines whether or not you continue forward, because you could make that bomb mean something. And you then determine that you're not good at comedy, you're not able to be on stage, you're not funny. You create a story. Well, the same person could bomb, or a different person can bomb and be like, that was interesting. How can I improve that so I can work? What worked, what didn't? Like, they're looking at it from a different perspective. As somebody who has had experience not only hosting shows and bombing, like, what do you think makes the difference between the person that quits after a really terrible bomb and the one that continues moving forward and trying to improve?
I think it's lack of having anything better in your life to go to. If you have like stability, then you're fucked.
What? I have stability.
I'm kidding. That's a darker way of looking at it. I mean, it's about drive. It's about power. You gotta stay hungry. You gotta devour. What's that rock song? You know. We'll listen to it later. It doesn't matter. But I don't know. There are people that
you have to have a drive. You have to have something that's pushing you in order to become better.
Yeah, I mean, even like I fluctuate, and then sometimes I have like a few like bad weeks where it's like every show I'm just having a bad time. I'm like, I don't like this at all. I want to quit. It'd be so much easier if I was just like making pottery somewhere. Life would be so much simpler. In
the times that you are facing your most amount of like struggles and adversity, what do you tell yourself, or what things do you do in order to continue moving forward and it keeps you motivated to do it? Because I've had those weeks, not in comedy, but in different areas of life, where it just feels like everything that I'm doing feels like a failure. It feels like I'm not enjoying this. I'm not having a good time. Even when I do have success, it's not like the same feeling as it was before. Yeah. So what do you do during those times to keep you moving forward?
Try to remind myself that I've been in this position before and I was able to come out of it. I think just recognizing your own cycles, seeing when you're in a depressive state, see if that has anything to do with the way you're feeling. I mean, of course it would have something to do with the way you're feeling. But, you've been in those positions before, you've felt like this before, and then you've had times where you feel incredible. So it's just kind of like getting used to the cycle, understanding the cycle, trying to break the cycle.
Or finding the cycle, too. There's a lot of people who are unaware of their emotions or of their behaviors, and they just think like, oh, this is just another typical Tuesday.
Right.
But it really is something different, or maybe like I've definitely resonate with you, because I feel like I'm constantly in a state of mania and and just hyped and ready to go. And then it's like a wave. It just comes in and it's a wave of depression. And it just feels like nothing I want to do feels good. I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to be social. I know there's all these things that I have to do, but the body is just like, we're not doing any of that.
Yeah.
And in those times I force myself to still go out and usually if I feel like I don't want to go out, I want to cancel plans and I stick to them, even though I don't want to. At the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? I am glad that I went up. I am glad that I got some reps in tonight, or
yeah,
I'm glad I went. I took the drive out there to do the mic.
Right. Even though you want to stay at home and just watch TikTok for 4 hours.
Exactly. Because what other better time do I have than when I'm on my phone looking at puppies and like somebody cook steak?
Exactly. It's the colors app. It just flashes so many colors at you.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying.
You don't need cocaine anymore. You just need social media and all
Exactly.
these apps to just keep your brain constantly getting hits of dopamine, and then eventually you're just fried out and you just, kill your dog or something. I'm just kidding. I would never kill Cinnabon. She's too damn cute. If anything,
Someone else's dog.
yeah, for an ugly one like that shits on your lawn and they don't pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's so cute.
Thank you. I'm so glad she's cuddling with you. She usually sits in between the legs of our guests. And they say that's the best part of the interview is Cinnabon.
Yeah.
She's actually accomplished more in the comedy scene than I ever will.
Yeah.
Because I let Katie Hausman borrow her or like pet sitter, and she brought her to all these mics. And then when
yeah.
I brought her to mics, people recognized my dog but didn't know who I was.
That's amazing.
And a year in a comedy, and people were like, Cinnabon. And I'm like,
Does Cinnabon have a Type 5 yet?
what?
Type 5?
Type 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, she has a half-hour comedy special
Oh,
currently streaming on Hulu.
Pretty racist, though.
Oh.
I've heard some of it, and I don't know if you could put that on TV these days.
That's why they streamed it on Hulu.
Oh,
We
okay.
got paid advertisements.
Yeah.
Because apparently they still allow dogs who are prejudice Cinnabon. You
Right.
should really check your privilege, Cinnabon.
The only ads playing for it are Black Rifle Coffee Company.
As someone who does not pay rent or contribute to the family financially, she's definitely the type of dog to be like, you need to work harder.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could see it. As soon as I walked in here, I could feel her judging me.
She resonates with Kim Kardashian because
Yeah.
she thinks she is Kim Kardashian.
I mean, she
I'm not
thinks
gonna-
this is a mansion.
100%.
It's the world she knows.
And she thinks she's famous because she's recognized by everyone. She's so sick of it. She gets recognized and she's like, "Ugh, I don't even want to be here."
I know.
I love this dog. Back to the conversation though. As somebody who's been doing comedy for how many years now?
4 years?
When did you have a moment where you felt like you truly got it? Where you felt like, I got this. Like I understand what I'm doing. I'm able to do it.
I mean, I've had moments like that, but then I have moments right after that completely. Oh no, you dropped it.
I dropped fruit all over myself. Continue.
I have moments where I'm like, oh, I got this. Everything's going well, and then I have moments that like cancel out that. So that's kind of the cycle that I go in, where I feel like I'm on top of everything, and then I am completely under everything.
Is there a show that you reference in your mind where if someone was like, tell me about a show where you did really, really good, that you think about that it still kind of brings that feeling of like, for you?
I mean, the moment for me when things started like picking up traction here was whenever I got on to Kill Tony, and then I got the secret show spot from that.
Do you really think that's what helped boost you?
I think so, yeah. Because then whenever I got the secret show spot, which is at Vulcan on Thursdays, I was asked back for like the next like 5 or 6 shows.
That's
in
awesome.
a row.
And I think that's everyone's dream right now in the Austin comedy scene, is to get picked on Kill Tony, to be asked for the secret show, but it's just such a rarity.
Yeah. And I mean, it was at that time when I felt uncomfortable doing 7 minutes, but now I feel comfortable doing up to 15. 20 is still weird for me.
Really?
I need to do more spots that are 20 minutes long so I can get more comfortable with it. But yeah, it was it was a big growing experience being able to have that kind of quality stage time.
And you seem so comfortable on stage. Like I've been watching a video that's kind of been circulating around social media right now, is the one where you try to give a handshake to the crowd member, and then you totally like take it back.
Oh yeah.
Then you like whip it out, flip him off,
Yeah.
and you just destroy this man. I bet that man went home and just killed himself.
Oh, I hope so. Actually,
I hope so.
so in the video, he says, I asked him what his name was, and he says it's Chad. And then I'm like, fuck you, Chad. But then I talked with the guy afterwards. His name's not Chad at all.
He just
his
gave
name's
you a
like
fake
Eric
name.
or something.
Of course, he didn't want a smart man by not giving you a fake
Oh,
name.
absolutely. I mean, he knew the game, and he played it. He yes-anded me, you know. So it was amazing. I love that guy. I love Eric or whatever.
It's such a funny video too. For those of you who want to get a little bit of brightness into your social media feed, where can people find you?
Instagram would be the best. That's where I post everything. LUKASWMC. So go on there. I post videos every week. So
It's good
the best
content.
way.
It's
Oh,
really
thanks.
good jokes. I like the fact that you're putting it out there. I feel like my jokes, I really have to sit down and figure out which jokes I can put online because, of course, my comedy isn't for everybody. And because I work in tech.
You can say that again.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
because I work in tech, I have to also be careful about like what I say and like I don't want to represent anybody.
Right.
And I say that all the time on my podcast is like I am not associated with the people that I employed with. I am not
Which
associated
employee
by
is that again?
You can Google me and look me on LinkedIn to find out. So, because I try not, I don't want to be Nate from the tech company. I want
Right.
to be just Nate who happens to work at tech company, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really pursuing this so that I can move away from that eventually in the future. I love what I do. I love where I work. I love my team. I love my company. But at the end of the day, I would love to be entrepreneurial, 100% self-sufficient on my own business, and that business would be in like personal development, coaching, speaking, because I love it, man. I really do love it, and I think comedy uses it crosses a lot of boundaries with like rapping and with.
Were you a rapper?
No, but I was huge into hip hop. Still am. I love hip hop. I love MCs. The mumble rap stuff, like I've come to terms with it where like it's not meant to be sat down with and analyzed as if it's a piece of art. It's just for fun.
Right.
If you look at it from that perspective, then you can hear Migos go raindrop and then just be dancing to it. But if you try to sit there and try to pick out philosophical meaning out of it, you're going to come up pretty empty.
Right. I mean, it's also a skill to make a song where it's makes people have fun.
Yeah.
That's a skill.
And as current trends stand right now, most people are kind of looking for a way to escape. I feel like a lot of the things that we are currently focusing on now as a society, as a culture, it feels like because of all the stuff that we've been through, it feels like there's like this collective trauma that now everyone's just looking for ways to escape. And they do that by going like to these expensive ass festivals. They go on to these crazy vacations. They go to Vegas and black out for several days. They do mushrooms in the desert with CEOs of Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah. They lock their car in the garage and turn on the exhaust.
Put a hose in there and then funnel it to the window.
Yeah. Many ways to escape.
Sorry, I love having comedians because it's like this thought pattern. I know you're joking, but it's also like and I'm pretty sure you have experienced this. But can you tell me of a time where you thought a joke was super funny, you did it, and then just somebody in the crowd absolutely like dogged you for it or hated you on it? Have you had that happen in your career yet?
Yeah, I mean, one of the funniest times was when I did Barrels and Amps up in Georgetown. Have you been to that show?
No, is it fun?
It's very fun. It's Georgetown is like a libertarian safe haven, so it's just all suburban white people there, and they really like their own way of thinking and stuff. So I went there and I started my set off by finding this country guy in the crowd, front row, and I just said, "Hey, what's your name?" He was like, Devin. And I was like, "Oh, Devin. Okay, cool. I just wanted to know what I was going to be screaming later tonight." And then he said, "What?" And then his friend like took a pause and then just started busting out laughing.
Sure.
And said, "That's the funniest thing I've ever heard, man." And then Devin was like so uncomfortable. He was so uncomfortable for the whole set, but everyone else thought it was so funny how uncomfortable he was. So I just like dug into him more and just telling him how I'm gonna like kiss him and tuck him in at night and treat him well.
And he was just so uncomfortable about it. And when people get so uptight and worked up over jokes, it seems like it's so fucking silly because, like, you know it's a joke. It's not for the intention of, like, you don't really mean it. Or maybe you did. You really did want to take Devin home. But the fact that he, like you said, the fact that he got uncomfortable made everyone else laugh. Yep. Because it was just like, this is so awkward. This is such an awkward exchange.
Yep.
And you lean into that. You really lean into that, like, space of awkward and uncomfortable.
It comes out, you know. It just comes out kind of naturally. So either try to fight it or lean into it.
And I think the best way is to lean into it. Like, fuck it, double down.
Right.
Another question I wanted to definitely ask you is there anything that you have adopted in the last 5 years, like a habit or a belief that has really improved like your performance, your ability to create?
I think just kind of doing things on my own. So that, like, the way that comes out in comedy is like starting my own shows. So I started my own show because I wanted to be in charge of my stage time. I didn't want to have to rely on other people to get good stage time.
That's awesome.
So that's helped me out in a number of ways. And also, like, doing the show at Vulcan, it's stressful sometimes when I think that it's someone else being in charge of liking me, determining whether I'm going to get stage time on their show.
Right.
So that's why I reached out to them and started my own show there because I really like that venue. And it's
a great venue.
The people that work there are amazing, and they're all incredible to comics. So that's why I started my show there, just because I wanted to kind of secure myself a spot in doing good stage time on a good show in front of good audiences, instead of having to rely on other people for that.
Which is awesome. So you basically created your own path instead of waiting for someone to create one for you.
Right. Yeah. So that'd probably be my number one thing is instead of waiting around, I just kind of built it myself.
For somebody who's inexperienced, because you have 4 years of it, plus you have the several years of being like on stage, and you're obviously very comfortable with being on stage. Say somebody's brand new and they're working, they want to maybe not comedy, or maybe it is comedy, maybe it's like they just want to pursue something that's different outside of their comfort zone, but it's something that they're passionate about and they want to do it. What advice would you give somebody who's kind of wants to do what you're doing, who wants to pursue something outside of them?
Don't do stand-up. We have enough people doing it already. We have so many people that are bad at it. I'm bad at it. I shouldn't be doing it. No one should do stand-up. It's hard. It takes up all of your nights. You'll never get a girlfriend. Don't do it.
And I'm over here. Yeah, so look, I got married, then did stand-up, so she was forced by law to support me.
I tell people all the time that ask me about like open mics and stuff whenever they're wanting to start. I'm just like, you just have to go do it because you're not a comic until you do it, and then once you do it, you're a comic. You know. So I have some friends that have wanted to do it for a while, and then they put a lot of thought into the pre-process, which I think is important. But then I also think that you can back yourself up and just not make that jump, because you're not going to be ready to do it until you do it. You're not ready to go up on stage until you've already done it. Right. So you won't be ready the first time. You're going to suck. It'll bomb. But, yeah. I mean, that's the fun in it.
But with consistency and just continuing to push forward, you eventually get better, you would hope to, because, I mean, I've seen some comedians who I just either believe that they haven't found their right audience, or maybe they just really don't get it. And they're like, oh, I've been doing comedy for like 7 years. And I'm like, wow, and that was your set? Like, I've only been doing it 1, and that's terrible to compare and to like be like, but you can tell when somebody's got it and can really hold their own on their stage. Even if all their jokes don't work, you can tell that they're like working on them and that they have some potential, compared to some people who just like straight up bomb on a consistent basis. And they're like, I'm going to be the greatest comedian to ever exist. And I'm like, ooh, good luck, buddy.
Some people have their art, you know, right? They don't want to bend. They don't want to change their
style.
But I mean that's kind of necessary in this business. You're in the entertainment business. You're not in the look at me business.
It's an adaptability or the capacity to kind of change and adapt to whatever environment you're in.
And I mean, I struggle with that too, going in front of audiences that I'm not used to, and then trying to figure out, all right, what am I going to do that's different? What do I need to change in the way that I act normally to, make these people have a fun time?
When it comes to like balancing life, like you said, being a comedian is so time consuming. Working on your passion takes up as much as a full-time job, if not more hours. What do you do to maintain balance?
I have a girlfriend that's most of the balance.
Solid support system.
Yeah, she's incredible. She comes out to shows. She supports me. She's got a fat ass.
That's important.
It's important. I think that, and having good friends. I think I've recently just really found the value in having a small amount of friends, but having really deep connections with them.
Right. You'd rather have like a single dollar than 4 quarters or 100 pennies, right? It's just the value of the person.
I mean, 4 quarters can get you like gumballs and stuff. But
which is the shit, but would you rather have like 20 nickels?
Right.
No, right? You
You have. What am I going to do with 20 nickels?
Throw them at strippers, make it hail.
Yeah.
Right. But it's just, like you said, the smaller the circle, the kind of more benefit you get. Because it shortens the amount of people that you trust, but you know them at such an intimate level that you can truly be yourself around them. And I think that is something that kind of people struggle with currently, is kind of like being themselves or being comfortable with being themselves. It comes in, as a comedian, you have that ability to express yourself and kind of like see or create a stage persona that people are entertained by. But when it comes to like being there's things that make me keel over and laugh, right? That won't make the next person keel over and laugh. To then do that same thing and then to like convince other people that that's funny not only takes a lot, but it's also a reflection of me. And to show that part of me is incredibly vulnerable. So there are a lot of people, I feel, currently that kind of hide behind like, oh, I don't do that because then people will really know me, and then I'm scared of what people will say about like my true self, my true me. Can you speak on that?
Oh, I mean, I put up walls everywhere I go. I get like social anxiety,
just all along the borders.
Yeah, so I'm pretty introverted. Comedy kind of forces that out. I have to be around people all the time, and it can get pretty overwhelming. So I'd like a lot of time to myself so that I can just kind of like relax and not have to worry about what other people are thinking, worrying about like if I'm saying the wrong thing or anything like that.
So if you start second guessing yourself or really taking the opinions of others too closely to heart, you just think that it basically stems from like not taking quality breaks, not getting away from it enough so that way you can readjust?
Yeah, I mean, it also just stems from a lot of anxiety.
For sure.
So, I mean, that's still something that I'm working on, trying to get better at that, have more control over that, over not letting some, like, weird glance at me make me spiral.
For sure. Know? Any habits that you've picked up that really help maintain or manage your anxiety better?
Nicotine. It hurts a lot. It actually causes a lot of anxiety, I think.
I feel that too. When I hit my wife's vape pen, if I hit it too many times, I feel really bad.
Yeah.
But there's something about it that I just want to hit it constantly. Plus, it tastes like mango.
Right. Yeah.
What's your favorite flavor of vape?
I can tell you the worst vape I've ever had was this one called Straw Nanners Ice.
Ew.
And
so it's banana ice?
Yeah, it's banana and strawberry. And it made me feel bad because my body was physically addicted to Straw Nanners Ice.
So it was addicted to it? You kept going back to the flavor?
Yeah, well, because I kept using I bought it, so I'm gonna use it until it's done.
You can't give it. You can't just throw it away because you spent money on that. You
Yeah,
spent
it's like
good earned money.
$20. I'm not gonna not use it.
Yeah, I feel that.
So like I would wake up in the morning, I was like, oh, my body needs straw nanners ice. It's embarrassing.
So there's not too many rehabs that are currently advertising on social platforms being like, "Are you addicted to nanners?
Right.
To straw nanners ice?"
No one would talk about it. If you're addicted to cigarettes, that's cool. You know, you can write poems about that, but you can't write poetry about straw nanners ice.
I just feel bad for the people that drink the coffee with the cigarette because your shits just must be
Yeah.
atrocious.
Oh yeah. But I mean, a great shit though just comes out immediately.
10 out of 10. Today, Cinnabon actually, she hadn't pooped all day. Hadn't pooped since yesterday. I think she took the biggest dump I've ever seen her take. It was literally a pound, and she's only 10 pounds. So she shit a tenth of her weight.
Wow.
And I'm just like, this is very impressive, Cinnabon. This is a grown man.
That's incredible.
It's a grown man poop. She's an accomplished puppy.
Good for you, Cinnabon.
Has there ever been any book or any type of art or performer that really inspired you in a way that kind of like you think about them often, or you kind of like reference them as like what you want your art to be like?
I read one book this year. You can clap. Go ahead, clap. Thank you. But I mean, one thing that I was talking about, and it just kind of like solidified that like moving to Austin was a good idea, is like it talked about the idea of like big cities being like New York, LA, like just massive cities, versus coming to a medium-sized city like Austin. Like if you want to go to a place and make a difference, make an impact on that place, then New York or LA isn't for you, because there's already so many people there doing things that you can't really do something that impacts the city as a whole.
Yeah, you just become part of the noise.
Yeah, it's like if you want to go to the party, if you want to like go have a fun time, go to one of those cities. But if you want to go and throw the party, then go to like a medium-sized city, and you can do stuff that is actually impactful to it.
Great advice. What was the book that you read?
It was called For the Love of Cities. I forget who it was by, but that was probably the most interesting part about it, that little chapter.
And that's really all you need, is just that one little piece that really resonates you, and that's the piece that you can run with.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. If you don't mind me asking, I'd like to know if you were to be able to give your younger self any advice now, after everything that you've been through, what message would you send to them?
If I could give my younger self some advice, I mean, start stand-up earlier. Mm-hmm. I started pretty early. I started when I was 21, which is relatively early compared to everyone else that I see. But it was always something that I had in the back of my head, but I just never knew where to see the outlet for it. It wasn't until I went to my first open mic in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I saw people doing it in real life. That was like my first comedy show, was an open mic. And
Same here.
Yeah.
And actually at my first open mic, 4 or 5 comedians got consecutively banned at the same time.
Oh my God. For what?
Because guy number 1 went up and said a joke using the hard R.
Wait, where was that at?
The grandstand?
Yeah.
On the first open mic?
Yeah, I was there. I was there that night.
Ah, me too. That was my first time doing stand-up.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
So
what a hard approach into that.
I know. So the first guy went up, hard R. Then the MC came up and was like, hey, no hard R's. You know, let's keep this place cool. And then the second person went up and they're like, well, what about the F word slur for homosexuals?
Yep.
And they were like, then he did a set. Next person, the MC came up, no saying that word. Third guy went up, well, what about the slur for the mentally handicapped? And it just kept, right, everyone kept going up there and being like, well, what about this word? And then 5 of them got like, because they got banned, which was funny because they ended up becoming the guys who run the Filthy Show.
Yeah.
So funny comedians.
Yeah.
But geez.
Oh yeah.
Ready to cut throats and just not care.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's best if you have like rules for comedians. Sometimes it's best just not to tell them,
because then they will break them intentionally.
We want to break the rules all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
There's something about comedy that is inherently like rebellious.
Right.
So
we're rebels.
To be like, oh, you can't do this. It's like, now I want to do it way more.
Exactly. I mean, it's like we're all children. I'm a child. If somebody tells me you can't eat a cupcake right now, I'm going to wait till you turn your back and eat that cupcake.
100%.
Immediately.
Yeah, because what if I don't get to eat the cupcake later? So
right. What if the cupcake's really good?
Yeah. And you're missing out on life.
Yeah.
And you're like, who the hell are you? Like, I don't know you.
Right.
Why are you going to give me life advice?
Yeah.
And then it just becomes ego. And then
Yeah.
you're like pre-diabetic because you've been eating cupcakes that people told you not to eat.
And you don't even know why you're eating the cupcake anymore. You've lost sight of why you're doing it.
It's just devoid of all feeling. You're just
Yeah.
consuming because it's impulsive.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good, healthy way of living, right?
What a great introduction to the Austin comedy scene you had.
It was beautiful. And it's interesting that you were there at my first show. Tell me more about your first show in Tennessee.
So the first one I ever went up on was the same mic that I went to watch. So I watched that mic, and then I was like, oh, okay, this seems doable. So I think it was like a couple weeks after that I went and signed up for it and tried out my first 5 minutes. And
How'd you do?
If I wish I had the recording of it, because I'm sure if I listened back to it, I'd be like, oh, I bombed hard. But in the moment, I was like, oh, I'm killing it right now. I killed it so hard.
I definitely bombed. So what I learned to do, which I didn't do my first open mic, was pause to let the joke land.
Right.
It was
so you were just going through it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The whole time I wouldn't stop, and I was just blah, 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 then the next joke, and the next joke, and the next joke. The next week I went back and said my jokes with pacing and some timing, and I got some giggles.
Nice. That's good.
And then that's what encouraged me. But my very first one, I bombed, boy.
Oh yeah. That's good that you know that, though, because I was such in an egotistical state of mind that I was like, oh, I killed it. There's no one that's ever existed that was funnier than I am in this moment right now. I am making art in Knoxville, Tennessee right now.
And just crushing it. And then feelings like that you can ride for the rest of your life. I'm like, at your wedding day, you could be like, yeah, this is cool. But remember that one time I killed at the open mic?
Yeah. I also did the cringy thing in that I invited friends to come watch me at the open mic. Yeah, they were very supportive, which also gives a bad read as to how the actual jokes are. Because if you invite your friends out to see you, then they already love you.
Oh, yeah, that is kind of true, huh? But I've definitely done that where, like, on my very first show that I got to put on, Angela Kay gave me a 5-minute spot on The Boat.
Yeah.
It was very nice of her. She was actually also at my very first comedy show, and she saw that I was still doing it, and she was like, hey, let me give you a shot. So it was very, very nice of her, and I brought tons of friends.
Oh, good, yeah.
I felt like I was supportive.
Shows is different. You're allowed to bring friends to shows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shows is fine. Open mics, it's strange.
It's an echo
strange
chamber.
Behavior.
Yeah.
To do. I understand why people do it. You know, I did it, so I can't judge anyone that does. It feels safer.
It does. It feels like you have something to fall back on if maybe not the crowd doesn't like you. Like, at least my friends are here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I had fun. I had a fun time my first time.
Well, look at what it's evolved into something that's just like catastrophic and destroying the Austin, Texas comedy scene.
I know. I'm really
pancake at a time.
burning this place to the ground.
I love it. And I'm glad that you're part of this community, man. Like, I love the fact that there's people who want to see good comedy thrive and exist in a city that is known for it and really put their place on a map. I love the fact that you decided to create your own pathway. And I really hope that people who listen to this podcast come out and support and listen to your show.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been very nice.
Abso-fucking-lutely. I just want to ask two more questions, and then we'll set you free. Sorry.
All right, two more.
One. Is there any quote that you often live your life by or reference constantly? Is there anything that sticks with you?
Oh, a quote? Oh, man, I'm so illiterate.
But maybe it's one you've heard in a movie or heard in a song. Like mine is "Tend to the garden that you can touch," which is a great way of being like, take care of yourself and take care of what's immediately around you, and don't worry about the rest of the world, because if you're always tending to the weeds and the outside of the bushes, then you'll let your roses die.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Do you have any quote or anything that you kind of like
probably
reference?
Steve Buscemi in Spy Kids 2, when he says, do you think God stays in heaven because he too fears what he has created?
I love that. Why is that your favorite quote?
Because it's a children's movie and they're just bumming everyone out. I think it's very funny that they put something so dark in a kid's movie.
They also had the thumb monsters, which terrified me.
Oh, yeah.
So that movie was just on drugs.
Have you heard Casey Rockett's whole bit on the thumb people?
I've heard him reference thumb people, yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. He has like 5 minutes on the thumb people from Spy Kids. It's amazing.
Shout out to Casey Rocket for being one of the most unique comics in the game.
He's incredible. I'm jealous of him. I hate him so much.
He just is unfollowable.
Yeah.
And there's no one that matches his, and he's his own creation.
He's his own energy, yeah. I've had to follow him a few times, and it's a challenge. It puts you on your toes.
Right. And there's very few comedians that have made me like have an asthma attack from laughing, and he's one of them.
Yeah.
Just dying.
Oh, yeah. He's one that I watch every time.
Love it, love it. Last one. Has there ever been a failure or an apparent failure that ever sets you up later for success? Like, do you have a favorite failure that you look at and see as kind of like a motivation for doing better, for being better?
I mean, the show Hit List that I run, the first, so I run it with my buddy Dan Pytetsky, incredible comic. Look him up, Dan P Comedy. And so we did 2 runs of it, and they went horrible. It was like horrible shows. We did one at Creek and Cave at like Thursday at 11 p.m. And the show was a bomb. And then we did one at ATX The Jungle, and that show was also a bomb. But then we got to do a show at Vulcan, and it was like the best show we'd ever put on.
Interesting. So you had 2 shows that went bad, and then the third one that went amazing, and then after that, it just kind of kept the momentum.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What made you want to keep going back after 2 shows? Because I know that's hard to put on 2 shows.
I wanted to quit after the second one. I wanted to quit doing that show entirely.
Thank God you didn't.
I know. It was stressful, and it was no fun, and I was having a bad time. But then we were going to do it again, and they gave us the Vulcan location because we were working with Big Laugh, and it was so much fun that it was impossible to say no to it.
That's amazing, Lucas, and that's an awesome place to end this podcast. Lucas, thank you so much for being on as a guest. Thank you for sharing your insight. Thank you for having dinner with me and my dog and my wife.
Egg drop soup was amazing. I'm
glad you enjoyed it. Can you let the people know how they can find you, how they can support you, the name of your show, and how they can get into contact with you?
Yeah, Instagram would be the best way to keep up with everything. LUKASWMC.
Say that one more time because I did interrupt you. My bad.
LUKASWMC.
Perfect.
And that's where I post about all the shows. The show that I run is called Main Course Comedy. We are doing different locations for it. So right this week we're doing it at the Whip In, and for the next show there's potentially going to be a art gallery. So we will see what happens. And also Hit List Comedy happens every month at Vulcan Gas Company, the last Saturday of every month. So come check it out.
Thank you, Lucas, so much for being a guest on this podcast. It was an absolute pleasure to have you, and I hope that those who are listening take what you said to heart and follow you and support you, because I believe that you are doing great things, and the more attention and sponsors and money that you get, the better that you're just going to make the comedy scene that already exists.
Thank you so much, Nate. You're incredible.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Carpe Natem Podcast. If you loved this episode, please consider leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Music or iTunes. It takes 30 seconds for you, but for us, it helps spread positivity to more people during these chaotic times. It helps build a community, and it makes me smile from ear to ear. Speaking of community, we have a Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Carpe Natem. Just answer the 3 questions to get some access to extra motivation and inspiration for your timeline. If you would like to support the podcast, screenshot this episode, share to your story, and tag me on Instagram at Carpe Natem 114. That's going to be my handle across all platforms, including TikTok. If you would like to give me a follow, I definitely would appreciate it. If you haven't already, please rate us and subscribe on Spotify or anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. And lastly, you can find all episodes, linked to resources and opportunities for coaching and mentoring from me at carpenatem114.com. I cannot thank you enough for spending part of your day with me. You are all rock stars, taking the necessary steps to be your best selves, willing to do whatever it takes, and ready to grab life by the butt cheeks. So until next time, this is Nate Della Hoya-Reynoso signing off.